record this.
Now I was out there looking. Is anybody having trouble with MindTap?
I had a little bit, but I figured it out.
Okay, you did. JC?
I'll get that stuff done.
Okay. I didn't see anything out there for you. I saw something out for everybody else. What kind of issues you two having?
I can't do any labs, which obviously won't work. And for some reason, it says I'm not doing it correctly, even though all my code's correct on the programming labs.
Oh, for the introduction to computer science?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I'd have to look at your code to see what you're doing wrong. So now, I should have been more specific. I should have meant in this class.
For a second, I thought I missed an assignment. You're supposed to do coding? I was like, oh god.
No. He's talking about a different class. Now, upon completion of this material, you should be able to describe the functions and relationships among laws, regulations, professional organizations, and information security. Explain the differences between laws and ethics. Identify major national laws that affect practices of information security. Discuss the role of privacy as it applies to law and ethics in information security. You must understand the scope of an organization's legal and ethical responsibilities. To minimize liabilities, reduce risks, an information security practitioner must understand the current legal environment, stay current with laws and regulations, watch for new and emerging issues. It can be costly if you don't understand some of the ramifications if you do something wrong. Just from an education standpoint, if we post your grades up there where everybody can see them, yeah. Now, if you screw up and put it up there, that's one thing. But if you deliberately post it,
Everyone, look at your experience. He's a failure.
yeah, it's,
Be that one teacher.
you ever had a teacher do that?
Mm-hmm.
Say, this person or that person, you did poorly on a test.
Yes.
That's actually against the law. They're not supposed to do that. That's a lawsuit, because you can't tell everybody else in the class that this person's the person with the lowest test grade. And same with IT and with your security. You need to understand the ramifications of it. Laws, obviously made by the state. Ethics. What's acceptable behavior? Can they look at every email you send?
State?
Or maybe, but your organization.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the organization can. And how about schools? Can they look at your email?
Yes, they can.
No.
I don't know. You see, it's dependent upon where you're at, right? They can, but ethically, should they? And so forth.
Apparently, our IT guy thinks it is.
Yeah.
IT guys are annoying.
Here at Cali, they can look at your email if they want. They made it very clear. If we talk about union stuff via our work email, they said we want to send it to your personal email. Because we said we can't communicate the union stuff via the work email. Why? Because they can look and see, hey, this person's doing non-work stuff, in company time. At IFR, one time they screwed up, and I was the official postmaster. So if you emailed postmaster@ifrsys.com, it came to me. And one time the email was screwed up, and every email that came in through the entire organization came into me. And it was a problem, and they knew it, and they were trying to correct it. And my manager, I said, "What do you want me to do with all those emails? I'm having hundreds come in, every 5 minutes." And he says, "Well, look through them, and if they're work related, forward them on to the person once we get it solved." You'd be shocked at how much people screw off of work. Some people having affairs, just all kinds of bizarre stuff. And I'm saying, oh my God. And it's just like, I'm having to read all this. So typically, unless they're trying to target you, they will not sit there and read every email in an organization because there's so much coming in. Just this morning, I had about probably 20 emails came in. You take 20 times 100 employees, let's say 100 are getting that many. Do you got a lot of emails to read? 2,000 emails.
Yeah.
How many people do you have in your organization to sit there and read it?
One.
Yeah, one maybe. But if I want to target Liam and I want to fire him, so I'm gonna at that point I will read every email he comes in, right? And I said, look at this, man, you're screwing off. And you're sending this email and so forth. So give me justification. So there's some ethics there. Liability, legal obligation of an entity extended beyond criminal or contract law. Restitution, legal obligation to compensate an injured party for wrongs committed. Due care, legal standard required a prudent organization to act legally and ethically and know the consequences of actions. And due diligence, legal standard requiring a prudent organization to maintain the standard of due care and ensure actions are effective. Jurisdiction, court's right to hear a case if the wrong was committed in its territory. Law and arm jurisdiction, application of those laws to those residing outside of court's normal jurisdiction. Usually granted when a person acts illegally within the jurisdiction and leaves. Policies. What are policies?
Laws of captain's commission.
You say laws, what?
Captain's commission.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. Policies is something you're supposed to follow. It's a fireable offense if you ignore policies, or can be, depending upon the company. How about procedures? What are those?
Just like typical protocols you need to follow.
Protocols where you do this in order to enable the network. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
Like
Guidelines, yeah. And even then, you got your policies, but then you also got guidelines. Do you have to follow guidelines?
No.
You should. Will they fire you if you don't follow guidelines?
Yeah, probably.
No. The policy is where you put it in place saying they have to do this. You don't have no choice. A guideline is more of, we think this would be best if you did this. For like Cali here, they give guidelines. They said you shouldn't give take-home tests. But that is the policy. So I could, I'm talking about mathematics now. In my mathematics course, I could give every test as a take-home test. It's a guideline. I don't have to follow it. They do have a policy, though, that 40% of your proctored testing, which means tests you take in the classroom, 40% of it has to be proctored. So if I make the final exam worth 40%, then the other 60% can all be done at home. Now, again, the guidelines is they say don't do it, but there's nothing to back it up. Okay. Difference between policy and law. Ignorance of policy is an acceptable defense. Nah, I'm not sure if I agree with that.
Would that be a offense, not defense?
No, defense. This is like they come back and fire you or take you to court or something like that. Some of the things that Hillary Clinton got in trouble with for her email server is she wasn't aware, of the security security policy. It wasn't a guideline. She wasn't aware of it. Was that an acceptable defense for her, though, to say I'm ignorant of the policy? Yeah, she can go to jail. But there was a sailor. He took a picture of the inside of a nuclear submarine. I think sent it to his wife or his girlfriend. Which is, again, it's a policy that you do not take pictures of nuclear, submarines. Where'd he go?
There you go.
Straight to federal prison.
Yeah, he went to federal prison. And he actually used the Hillary Clinton's case to say, I should not have went. Ignorance is acceptable. Now, that's ignorance of the law. You ever hear that in a court case where they're talking about does a person realize they're breaking the law?
Yeah.
Yeah, intent is a big thing, and that's what they're talking about. If you don't realize you're breaking a policy at a college, for example, they may not fire you there. They may say, hey, David, you're not supposed to be playing games on your computer all day long. We want you to do some work. And then say, okay, I didn't understand that was a policy. Now, some of them make it very clear. If you go to work some places, when you first sign in, a little screen pops up with the reading saying you're supposed to work. You're not supposed to surf on the internet on sites and so forth. Now, I say ignorance of policy is an acceptable defense. That depends upon the particular organization you're looking at. I've heard that ignorance of the law is no excuse, but for some people it is, isn't it? I'm sure if you got pulled over for speeding, so I didn't realize there's 80 miles an hour through here, then
It says 30, right?
yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't get by with it. Yeah. So.
That's something that they haul you straight off to jail for.
The what?
That's something they just straight up haul you off to jail.
Yeah.
Dude.
Now, criteria for policy enforcement. What are you doing with your phone anyway?
I was taking the video.
Oh, okay.
You can't do that.
I can't?
It's illegal in Kansas.
Is he legit?
It's illegal in Kansas because otherwise people with accommodation could really take lectures.
He's joking, is he?
I don't know.
I'm joking.
You're joking?
I'm not joking.
No, I don't know. Ignorance of the law is not no offense. It's not a defense. Put $100 bill there, and I'll forget that offense.
All right, Bree.
Duly.
Now, criteria for policy enforcement. You got your distribution. Read it, understand it, agree to it, and enforce it uniformly. So I make sure all of you get a copy of the policy. Read it. What they'll have us do at meetings, they'll give us a policy or they'll present it on the overhead, and we got to sign a little piece of paper saying, yeah, we understand. So we read it, we understand it, and we agree to it all in that one case. And then if I fire one person for breaking a policy, I can't let another person get by with it. So you got to enforce it uniformly. See, now you got me wondering about that video thing.
Well, Alex Brown told me.
Who?
That it's illegal. He's basically in charge of all accommodations for the school.
Uh-huh.
And he says like video recording is illegal in Kansas.
Why don't you just look it up instead of this is technically a public school, but not.
Yeah.
So there was a case that someone reported, and the thing said that the video was legal since it occurred in a public school.
Huh. See, I've had other students record in class as part of their disabilities because they can't write like real fast, so they record it.
Like audio recordings, looking at people with disabilities that can tap and audio recording are copied teacher notes.
Interesting.
It says you have to ask. Wait, that's not. It doesn't have to say.
Law is a funny thing. Types of law, you got constitutional, statutory, civil, tort, criminal, regulatory, administrative, common case and precedent, private and public. The United States has been a leader in development and implementation of information security legislation. Other countries don't care about it as much. And as a consequence, some of the places that will violate information security are located elsewhere. Information security legislation contributes to a more reliable business environment, stable economy. Do you agree with that?
If actually it's passed.
If it's passed, do you think it contributes to a stable economy? Who's the worst abusers of information security and just in general software? China. Are they a stable economy? More or less, yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with that, but reliable business environment. Well, I think business in China is pretty reliable, right? So more or less. The United States has demonstrated understanding the importance of security information as specified penalties for individuals and organizations that breach civil and criminal law. Here's 1986, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Cornerstone of many computer-related federal laws and enforcement efforts. National Information Infrastructure Protection Act of 1996. So I'd like to sit there and read that. This is a real interesting one. U.S. Patriot Act of 2001. Was that acceptable? I don't think it's occurring anymore. I think they stopped it. Expired in 2015. Anybody know what it is?
Yeah, they put it in place after 9/11, didn't they?
After 9/11, they wanted to monitor people without a court order. So without a warrant or anything, then it opened up monitoring. Maybe you could look at somebody's emails, their social media.
It says following a lack of congressional approval, parts of the Patriot Act expired on June 1st of 2015, and with passing the USA Freedom Act on June 2nd, 2015, the expired parts were restored and renewed through 2019.
Oh, really? I'll say put it back in place. Yeah. The idea is if I get on even social media, so even though they don't say it, the only way this can work is that they're partnering with some of the big players. Because how are they gonna read your emails? Your email's going through Gmail. How do they get access to that? Through Google. Google has to give them rights. If you're on Facebook and I'm monitoring what you're doing on Facebook, who has to give them rights? Exactly. Yeah. So people don't understand that. It's not the government sitting there necessarily by themselves kind of looking at the information. They're partnering with all these people. If you go on Facebook and you start typing something up like jihad and bomb and this and that, then all of a sudden you're not going to see ads appear, for those.
Yeah, right.
You're going to be on somebody's list, and maybe you'll go for a security clearance someday and they'll deny it because you're on that list. They'll just keep an eye on you and make sure that nothing's happening. Now, they did that. Is that against any particular type of law? What kind of law is that breaking? The Patriot Act. A lot of people are upset about the Patriot Act, and that I guess it's
Freedom of speech. Can't talk about bombs.
It's constitutional. Yeah, you can. You can talk about it all you want. You'd be on the list. But Constitution is supposed to protect you from that unless they have a warrant and so forth. So the government is not supposed to be able to listen in on everything you're doing. They used to say that applied to phones. I don't know if it applies to cell phones or not.
What's the Patriot Act?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Like, if you're not speaking at phone calls.
I don't know. I haven't read.
Speaking of phone calls, because they said that in Congress when they're trying to Rosenstein's like.
Let's see. Well, that's different than what the U.S. Patriot Act. The U.S. Patriot Act doesn't say every government organization can get it. U.S. Patriot Act, does it apply? Not that it's still around.
I know it's a,
To cell phones. Surveillance, ACLU, they're probably about the best ones.
The roving wiretap provision allows the government to tap every device a person uses: landline, cell phone, laptop, etc. Just one approval from the FISC.
Okay, so without a warrant or subpoena or anything like that?
They can wiretap it, but they can, but as no, they get to tap, they can record, but anything after that they cannot get. To the point that just you cannot screen phone calls.
So if there's one of their sections, the roving wiretap provision, it allows them to do that.
Wiretaps limited transactional addressing information are known as pen register, trap, and trace searches. For devices are used on telephones, collect telephone numbers. Requirements for getting need not show probable cause or even reasonable suspicion.
Right.
It must only certify to a judge without having to prove it such warrant would be relevant. So I guess this is it. They still have to get a warrant for a lot of this stuff, but they just go to a judge and say, it's reasonable. So okay, let me sign off on it. That's interesting. I don't like the ACLU on a lot of things, but I do like them on other things. You may disagree with them, but they really do go out there and try to protect your rights. And that could be with a lot of things with Patriot Act. Maybe they can look at all your emails. They just have to go to a judge and say it's reasonable. Anyway, U.S. Patriot Act 2001, again, tried to combat terrorism. Would you give up your rights if you knew it would prevent like a bomb being blown up at your school or at a business? Would you have any trouble with the government reading all your emails? If it prevented that. See, one no. A bunch of you not sure. How many of you would? Put your hands up. You have no problem with the government reading your emails if it'll prevent a bomb exploding where you're going to be at next week.
I mean, I don't really have. I don't really care.
So 4 of you don't care. Yeah, okay.
JC, what you got to hide, bud?
It's like he's sitting there deleting his emails real quick. Oh, I didn't know they could read these. That's these things pass because most people would agree with you. We want to be safe, don't we? So do you give up your rights to be safe? U.S. Patriot Improvement and Reauthorization Act made permanent 14 of the 16 expanded powers. U.S. Freedom Act inherited the select U.S. Patriot functions as the Patriot Act expired in 2015. And the Computer Security Act of 1987 was the first attempt to protect federal computer systems by establishing minimum practices. Now, this says this is one of the hottest topics in information security. It really is. A lot of people get really upset about somebody reading all your emails and you have no rights. My wife does. She does not like send things through the internet. She makes me unplug my little Alexa when she comes in my room. She doesn't want that listening to her. I think I talked about that in here, didn't I? About making a mess out at Barton. No? Well, I was out there teaching a math class, and a wasp flew in, and the wasp was on the table up front, and I got the wasp spray, and I sprayed him good. He was dead. I went to clean up the wasp spray. Anybody know what's in wasp spray? Chemicals and petroleum products. What happens when you spill oil and you try to wipe it up with like a paper towel?
Just smears.
Just smears. And I'm sitting there, it's like, oh my God, I just ruined their desk. So I'm not getting this up. And I'm thinking, how in the world am I cleaning up this petroleum products? And I went and looked around in the closet. They had a detergent, like the clean dishes and so forth. And I was making a joke when I was coming back. I said, well, let's clean the birds when they spilled all that oil. So this is bound to clean this up. And it did, by the way. It's amazing how that cleaned up petroleum products. But I was talking about this and so forth. What do you think I saw as an advertisement on Facebook a couple days later?
Detergent product.
Detergent product. I'm sitting here.
Tights.
Oh my God! How? Because I wasn't typing in anywhere. I've been told by another student. I haven't verified this, but they said that when you use Google Chrome, it's actually listening to everything you say.
We talked about that.
Yeah. Was that in this class?
It was the computer. It was the Android class.
The Android class? Yeah. And I think she said her mother won't even use Google Chrome because she doesn't want people listening in. Yeah. I myself, I don't care. If they want to listen to every conversation I have, if they think it's that interesting, they can. So I use Google Chrome. I have Alexa plugged in. I don't cover up my webcam.
So it's just off topic, but is
Uh-huh.
America really a free country? If you have the government listening on you, you have the internet deciding your ideas for you.
My counter question is any other country better?
His is probably more the relevant. Yeah, we're not exactly free.
We're not free, but we're more free than every other country.
Do you think you can own property in the United States?
What?
Can you own a house?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you own land?
Yes. I go to Korea.
How about if you you buy a house, you get it all paid for? Government comes in, they can take your house away if they eminent domain.
Right.
If they want a project. Did you really own it? No. If you got it all paid off, you still have to pay your taxes each year. What happens if you don't pay your taxes? They take it. You never really own it. We kind of under the perception that you own property, but you really don't. Which is kind of that's bothered me to no end. I actually emailed a bunch of representatives about property tax. I emailed Brown back too, and saying, I think property tax is the most anti-American thing it is because nobody actually ever owns land. All you're doing is instead of paying the bank, you're paying the government for use of it. And if you don't pay the government, then they can take it. And I heard back from Brownback. He wanted to thank me for supporting his tax proposal. I said, I wasn't talking about your tax proposal. I was talking about how property tax is the most anti-American thing there is. And I emailed the lieutenant governor, that idiot that's getting ready to run. No offense, anybody likes the guy. He might be really good. But I heard back from him. What do you think I heard back? It was a blank auto respond.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm sitting here. Well, that's interesting. I emailed him back saying, hey, you sent me back a blank email. And I received another blank one back. I wasn't very impressed at that point. That's why he might be a very smart guy, but I wasn't impressed with the blank auto respond. By the way, do you think that Brownback actually replied back to me? That was his aides, right? What word? They didn't even read my email. What word did they see? Tax. And then they edit copy and edit paste it in their standard response thanking you for the support of his tax plan. So, and then I sent it to a bunch of representatives, and one of them reported me for spam. I guess because they saw, that they weren't in the 2 category. They were in the BCC. Oh, well. At that point, I realized that they didn't care anymore about what I said.
This country is not what the founding fathers had intended.
No. But like I say, it's still better than any other country I can think of. So, now, rights of individuals or groups to protect themselves and personal information from unauthorized access. Ability to aggregate data, collect data from multiple sources, allows creation of information databases previously impossible. Anybody ever we talked about this, I think, in the other class, but anybody ever download all their information from Facebook?
No, I haven't, but you're talking about it, so.
Yeah. Heather, I think she said she did, and it was just a huge amount that brought down.
Like 8 hours.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what they're talking about. We got so much information out there about us that it's unreal. My son turned 18. When you turn 18, at least you're a guy. What do you have to register for? Selective service? They never talked about selective. Well, it's for the draft. Are you registered?
Yes.
Yeah. And when he turned 18, I'm telling my wife, we got to get down there in 30 days and get him registered. But when did you actually register for the selective service?
Yeah.
Really?
Just went to the post office, pulled stuff out, and turned it in.
How interesting. Maybe they just changed it recently. They sent us a form. He had already been registered. Government did it automatically. And that boggled my mind because we've homeschooled my son every day of his life. He's never been in public schools. Of course, they issued him a Social Security number way back when. But somehow they tracked all that. And they signed him up automatically. So I'm curious why they didn't sign you up. How long ago was it till you signed up for it? January. That's weird. I wonder if they just haven't got everybody. Because I was thinking we needed to get down there. Because it's actually what kind of penalties are there if you don't sign up? Probably jail or something like that. Yeah.
Why?
No, they won't have your name.
Only goes to the military?
Yeah.
It's not telling you to go in the military.
Just if there's a war and they want to call you up quickly, they don't want to locate all the guys. They want to easily have you available. I don't think
There's a draft.
do they do girls?
You.
Okay. So yeah, there are huge databases now containing all your information. A number of laws addressing your rights and privacy has grown. Oops, clicked the wrong one. U.S. regulations, there's some of those. I'm not going to sit there and read those. It won't mean anything. Patriot Act is probably the most important one. This talks about how you can gather information. Store loyalty programs, phone surveys. Look what else they're got there. Web cookies. What's a cookie?
It's a bit of data that websites put onto your computer.
Right. So they can, in theory, know who you are the next time they come there. Well, if that website can know who you are when they come there, could they also retrieve that information stored in the database? Yeah. If they can retrieve that information, then they can pass it into a web page.
Most websites use that so they can track how many times you've, like, newspaper places use that to track how many times you've, like, how many articles you've read so that they can tell you to subscribe to their newsfeed or whatever.
Right. Like Kansas.com's that way. Whenever I read Kansas.com, I right-click on it and open an incognito window, which won't save off a cookie. So I can keep on reading their articles. But a person doesn't know how to do that is limited. They get, I forget how many views Kansas.com gives you, 10 or something like that, or 5. And then you have to pay, unless you right-click it and open it.
Yeah.
And then they just talk about just web pages in general here. All that's assembling a database. My stepson went into advertising. I mentioned that in one of the classes. And, advertising is changing. Because if you know everything about the person, like if I can take all your Facebook information, do I know a lot about you? Yeah. Probably everything. Your politics, what your friends are like, your interests, everything.
I made my Facebook ridiculously secure, and I don't have any posts on it.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, I went through and deleted like everything just to
No. See, I don't care because have you ever had a commercial make you go buy something?
Yeah,
No.
I have actually.
See, I've never have, and it's like I've never seen it. And what did it make you go buy?
Taco Bell.
Oh, you saw Taco Bell. Ooh, tacos. That sounds good.
Like I feel like Taco Bell. I only got Taco Bell.
Now you know what'll make me go buy something if I smell it.
Yeah.
So that'll be a next phase of the internet. There'll be a smell coming out of your computer. So you smell that pizza. Oh my God, that smells good.
It just made me hungry, so I'll go eat a sandwich or something.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool for like a Febreze commercial. Spray in your house.
Yeah.
Like if you want your house to always smell like this.
I wonder if that's possible. What is smell? Is it just chemicals?
Yeah. There's no
Chemical reaction thrown in the air? So I suppose if your computer, you could load in a chemical module. It could do the mixtures and send it out.
You'd have to have it loaded with different things though. Different smell.
Interesting. Makes you wonder how many chemicals the smell's just based upon though. Identity theft. That's a big thing now. Does every place protect you against identity theft? No. So when you're taking a look at that, like you go in with a new bank. Here's Chase. They looks like they have identity theft protection. Usually they have certain limits on how much they'll protect you to. But if you go to a bank, they'll talk about what can they do. Used to be your debit cards didn't protect you against some issues. Credit cards did. I think that's changed though. Debit cards are. Is that true? If somebody steals your number and use your debit card, will your bank reimburse you? No.
I think you have to have like a certain thing on that. Because my dad's does that, but it's only up until a certain amount.
Yeah. Usually there's some kind of limit they put on it.
Because he's had his debit card stolen. And they only reimburse him like $200 to $500 or something like that.
So every 1,000 people is going to eat
Right.
Now here's a bank, Fifth Third Bank, wherever this is located at, and they provide. Then this is with their program. They provide up to $25,000 identity theft insurance. Here's one up to $1 million you can get. If you don't actually sign up for these, though, it looks like maybe you don't have identity theft protection. So yeah, it's identity theft is kind of an issue nowadays. Here's what you're supposed to do. Somebody suspects identity theft. Initial fraud alert you send out. Order your credit reports. Create an identity theft report. What is that website where you can? They're always advertising for free credit reports.
that won't drop your credit score down.
Yeah. Oh, they're like on every day, it seems like.
Yeah, like
Credit Karma.
Credit Karma too.
Yeah, Credit Karma. I don't know about the other one. Have you ever go to Credit Karma? Probably not. You're too young. No. Now, how many stupid people are there across the United States, you think?
Stupid people.
Population.
Most of the population, yeah.
Define stupid first.
Credit Karma. It's free. So they'll give you access to your credit for free. Is anything free in life?
No.
No. So which means they're probably doing what? selling your information. And I went to Credit Karma to sign up for it, and it popped up with a little disclaimer, read this and click accept. And within that, it said we have the right to monitor everything you're browsing on the internet, everything you're viewing, everything. So they're taking that, they're building this huge database, they're selling it to targeted marketing.
And that's how they make money.
That's how they make their money. That's why they can provide you your credit reports for free. So I canceled out at that point. Not that I care. I just didn't want something running on my computer that slow my computer down. It's like, I don't care. They can watch what I'm doing. Oh, with the disclaimer again?
Yeah. Sell out to other companies to make the money.
And you think about it, you really want it because how much does it cost to do all that infrastructure of Facebook?
A lot of money.
It's got to cost a lot of money. So is it really free? No, nothing's free, right? So yeah, all those places. If you read the little disclaimer closely, they're saying you're giving them rights to monitor what you're doing. Let's see. Here's a justice report on victims of identity theft.
That's a lot of people.
What?
My dad.
Jeez.
He so
17 million people in the United States alone in 2014? Did your dad have his identity stolen?
Well, he just about did. He had some checks in his workshop. Or someone broke in and stole them, super old, so they never cleared. But when he got the letter saying that it was no good, he immediately told the sheriff, and the sheriff's like, "Well, there's nothing I can do about this."
My mom had her identity stolen.
Really?
Yeah, it was a really big deal. It was whenever we went on vacation, one of her wallet was stolen. Whenever we went to a gas station, and she didn't know about it until we had gotten home, and they spent like $2,000. And the bank they went through this whole deal with the bank trying to get all the stuff back.
I think one of my students stole my identity one time.
What?
It wasn't a real serious infraction. I just got a call from a movie place that's rents video games also, and they told me that I had like 5 video games that I hadn't returned. I said, I've never been in your business. And so, no, we have you down and so forth. And I had to go down there and show them, my ID and the signature didn't match at all. And they said, well, we're supposed to get a major credit card, but we can't seem to find a copy of it here or any information. But my phone number they had my real phone number, which was bad. They should have had a bad phone number because then they never would have found out. I just would have it on my mark forever. I stole these video games, and but yeah, I say it was probably one of my students because I'd give my home phone number back then to my students. So interesting. That was in Derby. Yeah, it wasn't a serious one. It wasn't like where somebody's going out there and buying houses in your name.
Right.
I think
they bought a boat.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that costs money. Cleaning up some of that stuff requires even getting a lawyer.
Right.
So yeah, and lawyers aren't cheap. Let's see. Economic Espionage Act of 1996. It's talking about the right to use or sell encryption algorithms without concern of key registration. Prohibit the federal government from requiring the use of encryption. Make it not probable cause to suspect criminal activity. Relax export restrictions. All that. What's encryption?
Making so that it's not able to be read easily.
They take your
Yeah,
files
basically.
It just encodes it.
Encodes it.
I don't know what proper.
I don't even know what encryption we're at now. Let me see. Google Chrome
I don't know if that's what my
uses
machine does to my
what encryption. The last I knew, okay, it was 128-bit. What they keep doing is when they keep increasing that out, then people keep breaking it. And I guess there's some that's out to 256 now. They claimed some 10 years ago they would never break 128-bit encryption. What does that 256 imply that somebody's done? They broke it. So, why would you go out 256? But this talks about your encryption. So when you see that HTTPS at the top, yeah, that's really nice. It's so forth. But if your browser does not use the proper encryption, then it's worthless. All these look like they support pretty high encryptions. But yeah, you encrypt it, you change it as you're transmitting it over the lines, you're changing it somehow. What is a key? We're going to talk more about this later on. What does a key type system mean?
Key?
Yeah.
Is that require something to unlock you?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they for that WannaCry one.
Right. Like I have something on my side where I encrypt it. So, like you say, it jumbles things up so they can't read it in whatever manner they do it. And then I send it to Liam. Liam receives it on his end. In order for him to unlock it so he can see it, he has to have a key that I've issued him. Now, that's a really high security type system. That's not your normal browser. If I send him an email, I don't have to send him a key also. So.
You can't encrypt your Facebook.
There used to be be called Pretty Good Privacy, PGP. I'm not sure if that's even still around. Encryption software. I guess it is still around. Still the most widely used email encryption standard. Pretty Good Privacy.
I don't know, with a name like that, it doesn't seem like it's pretty good.
Yeah, you want to say excellent privacy. I want the EP.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I had to use this for one. I had to set this up for some of the users at one of the companies because they were sending information and it had to be really encrypted.
That's it. The encryption's on my virtual machine. Whenever I go into the virtual machine, it encrypts all my files on the inside.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. So just in case they did somehow get through the system, which is pretty hard.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no.
You gotta be kidding me.
No.
I thought I disabled that on all the computers this last weekend. It's a virus. It keeps turning itself back on. Now, all of you should never see that again. If you do, let me know. Okay, intellectual property was recognized as a protected asset. There's a U.S. Copyright Office. Talked about financial reporting. I'm not going to sit there and just read that to you. Try to look for the more interesting pieces of information. Freedom of Information Act, 1966, allows access to federal agency records or information not determined to be a matter of national security. U.S. government agencies are required to disclose any requested information upon receipt of written request, and some information is protected from disclosure. This act does not apply to state, local government agencies, or private businesses, individuals. Now, there is kind of a Freedom of Information Act for states. Anybody follow the deal with Cali with that? Well, the newspapers, local newspapers, have requested. I think it's based upon this program. So every time I read it, I get mad. It's like, but they ask for financial information about the college, And the college is required by law to provide that. But it doesn't say they have to do it for free. Because if you go into the Cali College and say, I want every record for the last 20 years, they're required to give that to you. But how many people would that take to compile it? Quite a bit, right? 10 people working full time for maybe 2 weeks to get that information to you. So these newspapers have been requesting information from Cali College, and Cali charges them. Still within the amount you can charge them by law. And they've been all upset about that. So, well, we shouldn't have to pay for this and so forth. And it's just like, they're following the law. Go up and change the law if you don't like that. So the newspapers just irritate me on that. Especially I know where they're spending the money at is for the equipment for here. I have this vision that they'll shut down. Of course, I think they bought all the equipment I ordered. I guess there's a whole slew of networking and so forth sitting there waiting for the racks. So once they get the racks in, then set it up. And not sure how long it'll take to configure everything. I'd like for us to do some real live labs in this class. But this talks about processing, so forth. Payment card industry data security standards, PCI DSS. Processing payment cards. What must you comply with? Do you want encryption on this? Yeah, you do, don't you? Have you ever worked with a place where you had to do processing of cards?
No.
Have you ever worked with that? Well, what it does is like you depend upon where you do it at. Like a motel where I worked, you'd process their card. It would send their number across the lines to the wherever is approving it, and then come back and say it was approved or not. You obviously don't want people to be able to hack in and see what's going across the lines, right? So you have to encrypt it. So again, they came up with this to regulate themselves. Sometimes the government regulates you. Sometimes they regulate themselves. Why would they care about regulating themselves? So the government doesn't make them come in, right? Yeah. If the government thinks you're not regulating, they'll come in and pass a bunch of regulations and rules. And state and local regulations, federal computer laws are mainly written specifically for federal information systems. Information security professionals are responsible for understanding state regulations and ensuring organizations' compliance. Do business on the internet. You do it internationally. Nothing too exciting there. Computer Misuse Act of 1990. That's kind of old. Privacy in Electronic Communications, EC Directive, focuses on protection against unwanted or harassing phone, email, and SMS messages. There's that no-call list that came out probably about then. Remember hearing about that? No? You could register your phone saying people aren't supposed to call me.
No, I didn't.
I don't know if there's a no-call list for cell phones. That's got to be the next phase, all right? You got a call earlier today. You said that was from probably a telemarketer? The what?
No, but if you would have let it go to voicemail, they would have left you, and then you have to call them back. Remember, I got in the car yesterday, and I got a call from Obamacare, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Oh, whenever we left, you got a call for chronic back pain.
Oh, yeah. I got a call.
Then he called me back.
Yeah, and
On
then I
his
called you and
phone.
was like, hey, do you have problems with chronic
And
back pain?
rodents.
And then I called him on Rhodes phone.
See, here's cell phones and a do not call registry. So if you got your cell phone, you can come out here and there's a national do not call registry. Notify marketers. Now, problem is, when you sign up for that, if somebody calls you anyway, are you going to take the time to call the FTC and report them?
Yes, because I'm petty.
Some may, yeah, but most of us won't spend the hour calling up this place, dealing with the federal bureaucracy to report somebody, right? So it prevents some legitimate marketers from calling you. The ones that don't care, they're going to call you anyway because they figure you won't report them. So, which is probably a safe assumption. Council of Europe Convention on Cybercrime, WTO, World Trade Organization, Agreement on Trade-Related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, effort to reduce impact of copyright, trademark, and privacy infringement. Let's see. Here's the interesting part. 10 Commandments of Computer Ethics from the Computer Ethics Institute. Thou shalt not use a computer to harm other people. Thou shalt not interfere with other people's computer work. Thou shalt not snoop around in other people's computer files. Thou shalt not use a computer to steal. Thou shalt not use a computer to bear false witness. Thou shalt not copy or use proprietary software for which you have not paid. Thou shalt not use other people's computer resources without authorization or proper compensation. Thou shalt not appropriate other people's intellectual output. Thou shalt not think about the social consequences of the program you're writing or the system you're designing. Thou shalt think about. Thou shalt always use a computer in ways that ensure consideration and respect for your fellow humans. Thou shalt not use a computer to harm other people. I don't think I've ever done that. You should not interfere with other people's computer work. I've done that. I think I mentioned in one of my classes anyway about playing the William Tell Overture when that guy's logged in. That interfered with his work. He had to sit there and listen to that song play before he could continue. Thou shalt not snoop around in other people's computer files. I don't think I've ever done that. Who has time for that? Thou shalt not use a computer to steal. I've never done that. I don't want to go to jail. I wouldn't do well in jail. Thou shalt not use a computer to bear false witness. I don't think I've ever done that. Thou shalt not copy or use proprietary software for which you have not paid. I might be a little bit guilty of that. Anything I've ever used for work, I always made sure that I bought the software myself. I got a copy of the TI3, TI4 software. I bought it because when you're doing something for work and you're using illegal software, what can they do? They can get sued. They can fire you, right? I didn't want to be fired, so. I don't go to those torrent sites because I'm afraid of viruses, not necessarily because I'm being real legal. But sometimes maybe I want to see what software looks like before I buy it. You know, I really don't do anything on my computer isn't work related. If I'm gonna do something fun, it's my PlayStation. Thou shalt not use other people's computer resources without authorization or proper compensation. I think I tried to do that the other day. I was desperate. I couldn't log into McDonald's, or I forget where I was even at. I was down at the Mulvane Center, and I was trying to get access to the internet because the internet was down. So what do you think I was trying? People's Wi-Fi. all of them had passwords on them, but I was trying to find one that didn't. I was going to use their resources, wasn't I? Thou shalt not appropriate other people's intellectual output. I've never done that. Thou shalt not think about thou shalt think about the social consequences of the program you're writing. Never really had that. I never wrote programs to effect like that.
I thought you mean I never thought about the consequences.
Oh. Thou shalt always use a computer in ways that ensure considerate. Okay, so I haven't violated any of those. I've tried on one of them, a couple of them. Let's see. Ethical differences across cultures. See, I think I downloaded an emulator for my Nintendo. You know, the original Nintendo?
Yeah.
And I downloaded the ROMs, I think is what they call it, goes with it. And I've played it on the computer there, but I only downloaded the ones I owned. Anybody got an old Nintendo?
Yep.
Yeah. You know how they don't really work well after a period of time?
Yeah.
Put the game in there and you push it down and
Oh, wait.
it's like
Yeah,
snowy and
Get to work and custom.
right. Well, mine finally quit working. I still have the games, and so I downloaded that so I could play those. Why am I so good about that? Do you think?
Experience.
On the side.
Why I don't violate their rights? I'm not the most ethical person. I wouldn't say that. I worked as a computer programmer for 13 years. And so when you write your own program and you think about somebody stealing your program and saying it's theirs or using it for whatever purpose, it's different. So
Well, if you ever want to sell those NES games, go down the line.
Cultural differences create difficulty to determine what is and is not ethical. Difficulties rise when one nationality's ethical behavior conflicts with the ethics of another national group. Scenarios grouped into these. Cultures have different views. Rates and commercial values of unlicensed PC software. Here's Liam. Rates of unlicensed software in the United States in 2015, 17%. But over in other countries, Middle East and Africa, 57%. Asia, 61%. You know, so 61% of their software is illegal. So, and that's what the president has passed some stuff to try to tighten that down. People say, well, why are you doing this? It's like, well, they're stealing our software. Microsoft's still going to make their money, right?
Yeah.
How are they going to make it? By charging the legitimate people more, right?
Yeah.
So,
it just promotes stealing the software in the first place.
Right. So it's kind of it's a vicious cycle there.
Right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
People shoplift. Who pays for that?
Consumer.
Yeah, everybody else. They jack your prices up, right? So, the businesses usually don't eat that. So that's interesting. Let's see. Education's overriding factor, leveling ethical perceptions. 3 general causes of unethical and legal behavior: ignorance, accident, intent. There's deterrence. If you think you can go to jail. What do people think they can do on the internet and nobody knows? A lot. Yeah, they can go anywhere, right? Nobody knows this. Nobody sees me in a chat room talking to who I think is a 13-year-old girl. Really, it's a police officer you're talking to. So everything's monitored, and that's what people don't understand. You know, anything you do on your computer, somebody's monitoring it, or if they're not monitoring it, they can monitor it.
You can look up whoever's searching what on your.
You can. Yeah, there's reports. I talked about that. I don't think it was this class. I think it was another one of our classes you're in. But I talked about that report on web trends, I think is what it was called, where you could put in a person's name and it'd show exactly what they're doing all day long.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if web trends is still in business. Web trends software.
Yeah.
Is it? It's probably really progressed from when I was using it like 15, 20 years ago.
Request demo.
But yeah, and if a company wants to see what you're doing, they can see everything. Used to be a pretty easy software to use.
Oh yeah.
Deterrence to illegal or unethical behavior, penalty, violators will be towed, apprehension, you get pulled over, application, you get arrested. Or shot, yeah. Professional organizations establish their own code of conduct and ethics. there's actually a lot of the computer degrees you get. If you go into hacking, one of the areas they really want you to focus on is the ethics side of it.
I'm already taking that class.
The what?
I'm already taking the class.
Oh, have you? Yeah. Because once you get access to these tools and realize what you can do, then the only thing to prevent you from doing that is some kind of ethical background of yourself. Here's some professional organizations: ACM, ICACA, ISSA, ISC2, GIAC, GIAC. Is that a big one?
What is it?
GIAC? Never heard of that?
I've never heard of it.
Some of these other ones I really haven't heard very much about. If I go to GIAC, this is a big one. If you're going into computer security, these are the real important certifications. Now, we're not currently going to offer any of these at Cali. Maybe eventually. But let me see. Cyber defense. Here's security essentials you can get. Certified intrusion analyst, information security fundamentals, certified enterprise defender, certified Windows security administrator. Tons of certifications. So if you're going into, if this is your area where you want to go into, you want to really focus on cybersecurity, these are what you need to get. So, you get whatever degree from Cali, you get whatever degree from Wichita State, wherever you're going. Along the way, you pick these up. If you look at somebody that has a bachelor's in computer science versus somebody that has tons of these certifications, and we're talking about the industrial standard ones, you're going to get the job versus the bachelor's. It's that important. Have you got any certifications? You act like you're taking some of these classes.
I haven't taken any of these. I don't have any certifications, but I'm probably just going to go for certifications, go to another university and go to community college and get a 4011 certification that's NSA approved.
Okay. Yeah, the supposedly the best college for cybersecurity in this area, I think, is the University of Tulsa. It's a private one. They're the ones that work with the NSA to provide our training to all the community colleges in the area. Was that what you were going?
I was just at the website too.
Oh, were you? Yeah, they're the best ones. They're working hand in hand with Rose State. In terms of community colleges, Rose State is the best one in terms of offering the classes and getting you ready for these certifications. But the NSA is working with the University of Tulsa. Yeah, it was kind of weird. NSA, they went to University of Tulsa. University of Tulsa didn't want to do the training. So they went to Rose State. And Rose State then coordinated the training. So. Have you been to Rose State's website?
I am clicking on it right now.
Tons of security classes. If your focus was you wanted to really get into security big time, and you didn't mind going out of state, you're going to find Rose State it's a lot better than us. I mean, I'm not going to lie about that. You go look at their listings. See academics. Let's see divisions.
It's under
Am I in the right place? Business information technology.
Yeah, business information, then there's cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity, digital forensics. I'd like for Callie to be here someday. Cybersecurity option, digital forensics option. They got mobile device and wireless security, ethics and information network security, Unix. They have a lot more than this. Security auditing, penetration testing, information security management, enterprise threat assessment. Cryptography. They got an entire class into cryptography. Remember the encryption we talked about earlier? That's an entire class on that. Security auditing. Yeah. They're the big one in the two states, Oklahoma and Kansas. I realize if you were to go there, if you want to go to a four-year college, the only one you can probably really go to is University of Tulsa. And in terms of transferring, where they'll be the most transfer. Because they, like I say, they've worked hand in hand with them. So.
They're out of state. I got that again.
Yeah, out of state's usually expensive. University of Tulsa, that's a private college anyway, isn't it? I think it's just supremely expensive. But
I was actually pushing an NC are the exact same.
For University of Tulsa?
ACT score for it.
Oh, you don't have the ACT?
It's 1 point above mine.
Oh. But anyway, GIAC is a big one. ACM you hear a lot about, but I don't think they have certifications. Association of Computing Machinery. ISC2. SANS. That's your GIAC. Department of Homeland Security, DHS, missions protect the citizens as well as the physical and information assets of the United States. The United States Computer Emergency Readiness Team, U.S. CERT, provides mechanisms to report phishing and malware. Can I, like Iran, not to pick on Iran, but since that seems to be the one that North Korea isn't threatening to bomb us anymore.
They think that restarting their nuclear war.
Are they? Okay. We had an agreement. Let's say Iran. Can Iran come over here with their navy and their submarine fleet and defeat the United States? No, Iran can't come over here and defeat us, can they?
No.
That's not even a possibility. They're not even at the point where they have a nuclear weapon where they could destroy New York City. Could they hack in and bring down some of our major systems? Yeah.
Not that advanced.
Well, it doesn't take much. These tools are real easy, and you'll see that if you take that class next semester, you'll actually, that's all the class is, using those tools, and you'll see how easy they are. Yeah. Yeah, if they get access to the internet, they use those tools, you can do wonders. So you got to worry about that. What happens if they do hack in and bring down? Didn't I talk about the electric generators they destroyed?
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens if Iran brings down 10 of our major cities? Our electrical grid, isn't enough to support if we bring down 10 of those major cities. So.
Let me just arm Iran.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah, go move over there.
Hey, we can be such for a couple days.
It'd be more than a couple days because those generators, it takes them 3 months to get those. So we're talking the middle of winter. All of a sudden, you have no power for 3 months.
Blackout.
People would freeze to death.
Move.
Can you move? Can you go? Can you go ahead?
That you're close to the state line that doesn't have this power now.
That's true. Yeah, but the people who don't have gas, you got to have electricity to get gas, right? So if you don't have that, then
Yeah, unexpected blackout.
yeah. So that's why the government worries about some of this stuff. U.S. Secret Service, additional protective services, charged to safeguard the nation's financial infrastructure and payment system. FBI maintains an intrusion alert network. Maintains a secure website for communication about suspicious activities. Sponsors local chapters. Operates a help desk. NSA, that's the big one. Is the nation's cryptologic organization responsible for signal intelligence, information assurance, security. They kind of protect everything about the nation in terms of security. How many computers do they have monitoring everything there?
Maybe
A
in
lot.
Yeah, that's probably tons, right?
Yeah.
Because they're sitting there monitoring everything going across the lines. So if you're on Facebook and you, like say, you type those keywords, they get notified.
There's just some guy.
100,000 computers.
100,000, really?
Worldwide.
Yeah. I guess.
You have 100,000 people looking at you.
U.S. Secret Service Operation Firewall.
That's enough.
Now it's black and white. That probably tells you something, right? Color didn't get invented until the 30s. You got your FBI Cyber's Most Wanted list? I didn't ever even looked at that. FBI Cyber's. FBI Cyber Most Wanted. What do you know?
It says database.
Yeah.
So most of them are foreign. That's cool.
So it looks like people are trying to hack in to do bad things to our government, right?
I hope I run into
the guy
one
at the
of
Southwest.
Korea.
I find it's funny, most of them are either from China
or
Or,
Pakistani.
Asian. I just think it's funny.
Download poster. Whoa,
Download poster. I'm gonna make that my wallpaper.
that guy.
Yeah, just that dude. Just
You're-
makes no form.
Your
2000
dad's like, yeah, I met a new friend. He just comes downstairs.
In 2014, a grand jury indicted 5 members of the PLA of the People's Republic of China for criminal counts, conspiring to commit computer fraud, so forth. This person obviously looks like an officer, right?
Yeah.
We're not even at war with them, are we?
No.
So again, they're just. I don't think they're really doing anything too intentional. I think they're just trying to feel us out. Notice your weaknesses, because if you want to bring down the United States, if you can bring down the computer systems, you can bring down a huge chunk of the United States, right?
Let's keep them from getting to this point.
Interesting. I never went out to that before. Oh, they actually have that person's picture here. Guess they've wanted him for quite a while. Let's see. Then we got our summary, but we're basically out of time. Well, we're done with that chapter. We only have one class this week due to the holiday.
Thanks, Labor Day.